Pat Lopez, where we talk everything real estate. Today, my guest is Maria Quattrone. Maria, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Pat. Looking forward to today.
Great, great. So, Maria, you're a broker owner of Maria Quattrone and Associates at Remax at Home, right?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Now, you are pretty accomplished. You are a top producer, 1% in Philadelphia. You also been in business for about 20 years or so, right? 20 plus years?
Just under 20, yeah, I will celebrate 20 in 2024.
Okay, so 19 years. You have a podcast.
I do. Be the Solution.
Be the Solution, perfect. And you also have your brokerage that I mentioned. So where I want to go and where I want to start is the very beginning. Go back 19 years ago. How did you get started and why in real estate?
A very, very good friend of mine introduced me to real estate. His name is Peter, still a very good friend of ours. And he said, "You'd be great." And I said, well, oh, no. I didn't know anything about real estate.
Right.
My background was in advertising sales. I was an account manager for a group of radio stations in that industry for 11 years. So I thought, well, let's look into this real estate thing. So I did.
Right.
I met with Peter's business partner at the time who had a small real estate brokerage, and I picked his brain, asked a million questions. And then it was November of 2003. In December, I signed up for the January 3 weekends in a row crash course. And by March of 2004, March 31st, I had my first closing.
Okay, great.
So
now
hit the ground running.
And when you started, was it difficult? Was it a slow grind, or did you have success right away?
It was not difficult. In fact, I looked around. I go, I hope nobody else finds about this real estate
right.
thing.
Yeah, this is free.
This compared to what I was doing, I was making 100 contacts to set 10 appointments to close 2 sales. In real estate is a lot different than selling radio advertising. Very few people, can actually buy radio advertising. So, yeah, a lot different.
Okay. And your book of business when you first started, what were you doing? Was it, friends and family? What was your approach?
My very first sale was a very good friend of mine from college. Him and his fiance bought a house in Bella Vista. My second sale was from a call-in to the real estate office. These 2 doctors wanted to park some of their money, and I sold them a building at 5th and Pine, 4 units for $1,050,000.
Wow! In
2004,
which is big, yeah.
It was a big sale, and that was sale 2, and I did 4 units. It was multifamily, so technically it was residential, but whatever. It was still 4 units. I wasn't quite sure 100% what I was doing at the time,
right?
But I figured it out quickly.
Right. So was that your aha moment, where you said to yourself, hey, this real estate, business may work out for me?
I think I knew pretty quickly. I wanted, though, to make sure that I really liked it a lot. And I took so from March until February of 2005 I want to say part-time, because that's not really what it was, but right. I was dual career over the course of almost a year. And then I went full force real estate in 2005, February 2005.
Okay. And then how did your business evolve over time? Because I know you work with developers, you've done some investing yourself. So how did that happen?
So when I first got into business, I was I was answering the phone. People would call about one property. Mm-hmm. We had it sold. So I would tell them about another property and set up a meeting with them.
Right.
And as that went on, I had a lot of business. So I had an assistant within 2 months of being only real estate.
Right.
And then I brought in my sister that year and a couple other people, and I immediately had a team. So it wasn't very popular for that because teams back in 2004 were not a thing. They were a thing for me because I could only do this business if I was completely just focused on sales.
Okay.
And not writing contracts and, not putting things in MLS. Like, that's just a complete waste of time for a salesperson. So I hit the ground running with all that. I was very, very busy, had a lot of clients. I think the one thing for me is I did my hard work of learning how to prospect and call people and speak to people when I was 21, 22, 23 years old, when I started with the radio. And that hit was enabled me to hit the ground running because I literally in that business, which was very, very difficult, I would go there every day to my job
Right.
and cry a lot because people kept saying no, no, no.
Right.
And I became strong and I learned to be resilient. I learned that you have to just keep going. The no, eventually somebody says yes.
Right.
And we need to get more no's to get more yeses.
Right.
So I take that into today, even with the agents, our agent partners in our company, and explain that to them that, rejection is normal. People are going to say no. That doesn't mean that it's no forever.
Right.
It's just no right
Right
now.
Right.
All right. So.
Right. And then with you, what you mentioned, having to make phone calls where you're making, 10 phone calls to get 3 appointments to get 1 deal, that training was, embedded in your work ethic, with, I think, a lot of people, don't do. So I think that was, 100% a valuable, lesson that you learned, that you were able to, move on to
100%.
Real estate, right?
Yeah, that was a big part of it. Only such a small group of people can actually buy radio advertising. I mean, you're a business owner probably, or, Acme Markets or a university. The reason why my business progressed the way that it did, working with investors and developers and business people, is because I was already used to working with business people.
Right.
And my sales prior to real estate were not consumer to consumer. It was B2C. Or B2B, excuse me.
Right.
And, so it was an easy, path going down that road. What happened was when I left this small firm and I went to another company, which was a larger brokerage,
Right.
I found out about expired listings. I didn't know about them before, and I was in the business for maybe a year and a half or 2. And then I found out about expireds, and I learned how to speak with expired listings. I practiced the scripts. I practiced the dialogue. I found out what their hot buttons were, what made them upset, and I addressed them in our meeting. But what that allowed me to do, Pat, was to get a lot of listings and all over the city. And at that time, it was areas that were getting developed, like Brewery Town, Point Breeze. It wasn't even like Sharswood or any of those areas, because they weren't even like, if that wasn't a thing yet. Francisville, Graduate Hospital, which now, Graduate Hospital is crazy in its pricing.
Right.
I had the listings. And so because I had the listings, I had the investors and developers and builders who wanted to buy those properties. So I made a lot of contacts with that. I also became a member of the BIA Association of Philadelphia, member of the Union League for 15 years. And so I was, prior to this real estate, I had already been in the business world for just over a decade in Philadelphia. So I'm actually now 3 decades in, 30 years in sales this year. And one thing I could say about whatever you're selling is that you need to connect with people. Right. Connecting with people, being engaged, showing empathy, having aliveness and joy and presence with them.
Right.
And that's one thing I learned from the podcast. When I started the podcast, it was COVID. It was April 1st, 2020.
Okay.
No going out anymore.
Right.
Stuck in the house. Bad for Maria.
So you had to do something.
Had to do something. So started the podcast, and the thing that I learned, and I interviewed probably close to 150 people, and I've been on probably about 40-ish plus podcasts of others. The number one thing was listening. Really listening to what people said. So you could ask very good follow-up questions to that. And it really enabled me to stop, think, and then ask questions.
Right.
And not react. And not talk over the person. and making sure that I understood what they said, because if I did not, I would ask a stupid follow-up question and nobody wants to.
But I do that all the time.
Well, after you do, because I know this is newer, after you do, 50 or so,
Right.
you get
Right.
the better hang of it. But it's you're doing a great job.
Yeah, I want to talk about the podcast, but let me stay with your real estate business. So when did you open up your brokerage? What was the thinking in that?
Why did I do it?
Yeah, why? And
Okay.
and when?
So I had a little issue with somebody who worked in my team at the time, meaning she decided that she was going to let my company I was with know that I was thinking of opening a Remax. So basically, I got thrown out. Top, either myself and one other gentleman, we were the one or two out of 650 agents.
Right.
That was tumultuous. And when that happened, I said, I'll never work for somebody again. And so I had already had talks with Remax, not necessarily that I wanted to do it, but
Right.
I felt that I didn't have a choice. I felt that I did not want ever again anybody to control my destiny, of my future, because I lost, there was this big argument about the 50 listings I had,
Right.
about the 38 pendings, and then paying all this money, and then the team blowing up, and just a big mess.
Right.
So I opened, and it was in January 2nd, 2014.
Okay.
I left the old place at the end of October, and I literally got a brokerage open with all LLC, stamped by the city, and in a new office space in 6 weeks.
Wow.
It's actually unheard of.
Right.
But I know people, and I made a lot of phone calls.
Right.
And so we were very fortunate with that. But I will tell you, owning a brokerage is not for the faint of heart.
Right.
It is a lot of work, a lot of blood, sweat, tears, things that you have no idea that people that are behind the scenes.
Right.
And yeah, it's a bit.
And how many agents do you have working?
13 or so right now.
Okay.
Give or take. We had in last year we've been doing this scholarship program, which we're still doing, but we're actually tweaking to go into an apprenticeship program. It's going to be completely different and smaller groups of people. But we found a lot of people just aren't willing to make the phone calls. We can't do it for you, Pat. You got to pick up the phone. I don't know any other way to sell real estate.
Right. So let me ask this question. So what do you look for if somebody calls you up and says, "Hey, I'm interested in, working, with you"? Like, what is that interview process like? What questions are you asking? Because you're saying a lot of people may not want to pick up the telephone.
Well, there's two different things. So one, if you're brand new, there's a set of questions for that. And the other is if you're already an agent in the industry.
Right.
So two different
avenues,
two different paths. If they are brand new and they haven't sold any real estate yet, we're going to ask them questions about what their activities are, what they're willing to do. Have you worked on the phone before? Tell us about, what you do socially. We want to know who they are.
Right.
We want to know if our values also align and our principles. So that's extremely, extremely important. We do interview a lot of people. We don't accept a ton of people. And I say that it's as if we don't want somebody just to hang their license in our office. We want them to actually sell real estate and participate in our meetings. They're required. It's not like, oh, you show up or you don't show up. They are required that agents be there, because we spend a lot of time going over a lot of training, things that you only will learn when you're there. It's running around the track. The only way you can run around the track is to run around the track.
Right. Right. So you, for somebody who's new, and even if you're coming from another agency, where you may have a couple of years, you put them in a program to help them succeed?
The brand new agents go into what's called Rise in Real Estate, and it's a 2-week program. We now designed it so that it could be done online mainly. Last year we had it in the office once every 5 to 6 weeks for 2 weeks. We found that not necessarily is that necessary. There's a lot of things that can be done online, but not in person. Especially we've created all these videos about how to write the best offer, how to have a buyer consult. We've done mock consults, listing buyers. So there's a lot of training, and it's real. It's not based on just a scenario. These are real live presentations.
Right.
So agents have been able to walk through that, which is great. And it's at their own pace. We used to say it has to be done in this time frame, but not everybody can honor that. And so it's a little bit more flexible in regards to time, but within a certain time frame, it does have to be done. And then at that point, you're completely onboarded and agents can come in. I call plug and play. Take the computer, plug it into the wall, and plug right into our system. And we have 28,000. I don't use the word leads, opportunities in our database
Right.
to convert to a buyer, seller, or an investor.
Okay. So let me ask some questions in reference to that. The market is challenging. We're in 2023. No longer we have 3% interest rates. So what is the main emphasis? And you mentioned that you have these potential opportunities that, somebody can call and speak to and potentially, make something of it. So is that your secret sauce that throughout all the years you have all these contacts, or what are you telling your agents?
I think it's an important part of it. I think the contacts are an important part of it. I think actually knowing being an expert in the marketplace, understanding the market, and conveying that message through marketing. So the people that are in our database, I call it seasoned opportunities. They've been in there for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Maybe they already bought or sold something. Maybe they haven't.
So when you're saying somebody's in your database, it's somebody who's done some kind of transaction, or
they raised their hand
Okay.
and they called the office and they said, "I'm interested in what you're listing at 123 Main
Okay.
Street."
Yep.
Or, "I just found you on Google and I'm ready to buy a home." Well, they weren't ready to buy a home because they found out that they had a little bit of credit issue and they had to clean
Right.
it up. So now they're ready. And that is a large amount of where our business comes from. And I call it seasoned opportunities because every week they get 2 emails from me, whether it is an email that's just text and visual or a video email that is me speaking about
Right.
this, that, or the other, market update, neighborhood, community event, or what we're doing in the community charity wise. So the clients in there, whether they were clients or they're potential,
Mhm.
they know who we are. So that's why I call them seasoned. They are the most, you want seasoned opportunities. You don't want people that just call in right now because most of them aren't going to do something right now. Only 1 to 2% will be a buyer right this second.
Right.
Right? Unless they're coming from Google because they're from Google. When they come from there, they're Googling realtor near me.
Right.
And we come up because we have over 540 Google reviews, which is extremely important in building your business and real estate. And clients do them. We just ask them, they do them. They're going to write, and you could tell that they're, not made up one.
Right. There's a difference.
The way that they write them,
Right.
so, and we can go back into our database and know that we just sold that client, 123 Brown Street.
Right.
So it's a big part of it. But the agents have the opportunity to work the database. And we know that if you make X number of calls, so let's just say the number in this case, I'm going to use 12. 12 contacts equals 1 appointment. Real estate is math.
Right.
Numbers game. So we actually this year are having our best year in several years. More, I would say, better than definitely better than the market because the market's down 30%
Right.
and we're up. So we're definitely probably, I would say like 50% better, which is really, really good.
Absolutely.
In today's environment. And I think I was sharing earlier with you, it's because also we do a lot of different types of real estate. So we don't limit ourselves to only residential. We do commercial real estate. A lot of companies, you have to pick residential or commercial. In our company, as long as you are, you've done commercial deals, you can do them, or we will work with you and help
Right.
you do the commercial deal. We'll actually do the deal for them
Right.
and close it. And then they'll learn. So they're walking beside us while we're negotiating the offer and, or presenting to get the listing. But, you don't have that hardly. I don't know really any company you have that
Okay.
capability to do that. So
So, in your opinion, what would be the number one thing a realtor has to do today to be successful?
Yep. So I would say focusing on today only, micro commitments, understanding what a commitment is versus a goal. A commitment is you don't go home without finishing this thing. And I would say if you can make a minimum of 20 conversations per day with joy, enthusiasm, empathy, connectiveness, aliveness, you'll win.
Okay. So it's just
And
pulling up your sleeves and working.
if you don't have the people to call, we have the people to call. That's the thing.
Right.
Right. So I speak with so many agents that come and meet with me. I can't tell you how a lot, like a real lot. Probably, I would say in the last 6 months, probably 75. And most of them don't have people to call.
Right.
That is their number one issue. And then secondarily, don't have the people to call, but also, time, I call it choice management, not even time management, choice management. What can you say yes to? What do you need to say no to that you're saying yes to right now? And changing what your schedule is, taking things out of it that aren't necessary, focusing on the number one task and the number one money making activities is talking to people, whether one-on-one, face-to-face, or on the phone.
Okay. Now, your podcast, Be the Solution.
Mm-hmm.
You've mentioned that in 2020 you started that.
Yes.
You have 150 plus shows. I listen to actually many of them, believe it or not. And you interviewed people from all over the country and people locally. And I saw a common theme. You're asking people their stories and what were making them successful. Now, have you seen any common traits that per all these conversations that you're hearing over and over again? Maybe a little bit differently, but are you seeing any of that?
I would say that strive for excellence, humility, humbleness, caring. Those are things that one might not think of as somebody who's successful. I would say down to earth, people that you would think, may, I don't know, be one way. They're not the way that people think they are.
Mm-hmm.
People of real success, I've found, are generally some of the nicest people and want to help other people. And helping others is a big, big part of it. And the issue, though, is that most people won't ask for help, won't ask those leaders for help. Not just in the organization. I'm saying like calling and asking this person who's super successful, can you help me? Most people, agents, non-agents, mortgage people, anybody,
right,
won't ask for help. And I find that most of these leaders are willing to do anything for people, but they're not asked most of the time.
Okay. And why did you start the show? I know it was in 2020 with COVID, but
it was COVID. Real estate was shut down for 10 weeks. And this was 10 days in. I'm used to going out and seeing and being with people. And so I decided to start interviewing friends in the real estate industry and just as Facebook Lives. And then my marketing team said, nope, we're going to make this a podcast. And I said, well, what are we going to call it? And I sat and thought, and because I told you a story about the expireds.
Right.
So I was thinking, expireds, we're the solution. We are the solution for those people who couldn't get their home sold. And we always have a lot of, I call them hard cases, meaning we don't get to like a lot of clean and easy deals. A lot of them have hair on them.
Right.
So like, that's why they call us, because they tried with somebody else, didn't have the clue to walk them through all these problems with the property. Anyway, so I said, we're the solution. And then I said, be the solution. And be the solution, not just in real estate, but be the solution for your life.
Right.
For your family, for yourself. How can you give back to the community? And it just was an all around.
Okay. Now, with the show, what surprised you the most, or what have you gotten from the show? Because you're talking to all these, tremendously successful people, and they don't even have to be successful, but they have interesting stories. So, what have you taken away from it?
I would say that how kind and humble pretty much every single person was. How they were actually honored that I asked them. I was
Right.
some of them I was a little afraid to ask because they're doing their team or groups are doing $1 billion plus a year in sales. But they were humbled by it, and I think that was a little surprising. Also, how much they wanted to give back. And, we talk about it all the time in our group is about giving back and giving all of the information away for free.
Right.
Like, here's all the stuff I did. You can do it too. We know that most people aren't going to do it, unfortunately, but we're willing to share it.
Right.
Right. So I think that was, that's part of it. The other thing is what I got from it. And that was listening skills, learning to listen, because I didn't have any questions.
Right.
I thought about making up the questions. I think I mentioned this to you. I thought about making up.
Not like this, right?
I thought about making up the questions, but then my team said, no, you're not doing that. So
Yeah.
I had to actually listen to what you said
Right.
and I have to ask a question based upon what you just said. So
Right. Absolutely.
it's all open.
Right.
That's so organic, and that's how it went. So anyway, I'm going to be adding on some what is it called? Quick fire questions at the end of the podcast coming up soon, just for fun. And
Right.
some of it has nothing to do with real estate or any business whatsoever. It's really just to learn a little bit more about the person that I'm interviewing. So.
Right. Okay. So I could sit here talk for hours with you because you're very fascinating and you've done so much. I do want to get into more of working with developers, really where you see the market trending. Hopefully you'll come back and we can talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
But before we go, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, they want to maybe sell a house, buy a house, join your team, how would they do that?
You can simply call the office. You can ask for me. It's 215-607-3535. You can connect with me on social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Sold by MQ. I'm on LinkedIn as well. But the best and quickest way is to call the office. On my EA, Clarice will set you up and me for a call back, because I do not like to play phone tag, and I do not want people to have to chase me for phone tag either. So we are very efficient.
Well, once again, Maria, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so
Really
much.
enjoyed
This
it.
was great.
Great.
I appreciate it.
That's the Real Estate Show with Pat Lopez. Be sure to follow the show on Facebook and Instagram and subscribe below. I have some great guests coming up, and hopefully Maria will come back again and share some more stuff with us. And be sure to leave a comment. Okay. Tell me what you liked, what you didn't like. Tell me some upcoming show topics you'd like me to cover. Remember, this show is everything real estate, no limits. Hope you enjoyed